Hey, I'm Craig. Welcome to your morning devotion. Today we're going to be talking about good counsel. Now, if you are following along on your yearly Bible reading plan, then you have likely just read through 1st and 2nd Kings. And a name that pops up very frequently within these books is a guy by the name of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. And he is never referenced in a good manner. It's usually, especially whenever you read 2nd Kings, it says, this king did evil in the sight of the Lord, and he continued in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. And so he is mentioned in his story is told in the book of Kings, but you may have forgotten about what he did, who he was, and why is the Bible just harping on this guy, telling us and continually reminding us of his terrible decision making and what he led the nation of Israel to do. And so today we're going to be looking at the story of Jeroboam. And so let's go to Jeroboam's Genesis. It is 1st Kings chapter 11. If you go down to verses 26, it introduces us to Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. It says, "Then Solomon's servant, Jeroboam, the son of Nebat," he's a certain guy, here's his mother's name, and he also rebels against the king. And this is what caused him to rebel against the king. So it tells us, it sets up the situation. It says, Solomon, he built the Millo, he repaired the damages to the city of David, his father. And the man, Jeroboam, was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, he sees that this young man is industrious, and so he makes him an officer over the labor force of the house of Joseph. So Jeroboam receives a promotion by Solomon. And it happens at this time that Jeroboam goes out of Jerusalem, and the prophet Ahiah the Shilonite meets him on the way. And so basically, condensing this next set of verses 29 through 36, condensing all of this down, basically Ahiah says he tears the clothes off of Jeroboam, he tears them into 12 pieces, and he says, "Take for yourself 10 pieces, because this is what Yahweh is going to do. He's going to give you 10 tribes of Israel, and he's going to give you 10 houses, and he's going to give them to you to rule and to reign over." So if we skip down to verse 37, he says, "So I will take you, and you shall reign over all your heart desires." And we'll come back to that in a second. "And you shall be king over Israel. Then it shall be, if you heed all that I command you, if you walk in my ways, if you do what is right in my sight, if you keep my statutes and my commandments, as my servant David did, then I will be with you, and I will build for you an enduring house as I built for David, and will give Israel to you. And I will afflict the descendants of David because of this, but not forever." So Solomon, kind of through the grapevine, he hears about this, and he seeks to kill out Jeroboam. And so this is why Jeroboam rebels. Jeroboam, he flees to Egypt, and he stays there until the death of Solomon. So let's come back to verse 37. It says, "You shall reign over all your heart's desires. You're going to be king over Israel, and you can have a legacy like David." Well, of course, we know David's legacy goes on for quite a while, and his lineage goes all the way to Jesus. And so there is really quite a great promise that is being offered to Jeroboam. "I will let you reign over your heart's desires." Well, that is really quite a thing when you think about it, because reigning over your heart's desires, usually whenever, and this is really the heart of what we're talking about today, whenever we think about our heart's desires, usually that leads us to sinful action. Usually our proposed ideas of happiness are not going to fulfill ultimately what is going to make us happy in life. They're going to lead us down, whenever we think about our heart's desires, it usually leads us down paths that we actually will regret. Now, whenever God gives us our heart desires, sometimes it's things that we don't even realize that we wanted, or things that will fulfill us. And sometimes we go through challenges in life, but later on, whenever we walk through those challenges, we wouldn't trade them for anything. And so it's really talking about, the heart's desire here that is an interesting note to pick up on. If we go ahead and go to the next chapter, Solomon dies, and his son Rehoboam is taking over. And so Rehoboam faces this situation where the people come to him and they are saying, your father made our yoke heavy, so please lighten the load on us. And if you do this, we will serve you. And so Rehoboam, he says to the people, he says, depart for 3 days and come back to me. And at this part, he still reigns over all of the tribes of Israel. And so the people depart. And then Rehoboam, he consults the elders who stood before his father Solomon while he still lived. This is verse 6. And he said, how do you advise me to answer these people? And they speak to him and they say, if you will be a servant to these people today and you serve them and answer them and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. And so Rehoboam, he goes and he gets really good counsel. He gets amazing counsel. These people, you can look at the kingdom that Solomon built. It is impressive. People are coming to it. They are saying, wow, what a glorious place that you have here. They are giving him gifts and giving him tribute and seeking his counsel. So Solomon had built a kingdom, of course, with the help of God, that was really the marvel of the world at that time. And so these counselors that served Solomon, you could say, I think quite rightly, that their advice is definitely trustworthy. And so Rehoboam consults the elders who stood before Solomon. And then verse 8 says, he rejected their advice. He gets really good counsel and he rejects the counsel, and he consults the young men who he grew up with, and he says, hey, what do you guys think I should do? And so the result of heeding the young men's counsel, the people that he grew up with, he goes back to the people and he says, yeah, you think you guys had it bad under my father. My little finger shall be thicker than my father's waist. So now, whereas my father put a heavy yoke on you, I will add to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scourges. So he comes back and he takes not sound advice, not good counsel, and the people rebel. They are not having any of it. See, Rehoboam does not listen to good counsel, and ultimately this leads to the united nation of Israel being separated into the 10 tribes of Israel and then just Judah. And so here comes Jeroboam back on the scene. Jeroboam, all the people, they come to Rehoboam. Rehoboam answers them, yeah, you guys thought it was hard before. Yeah, just wait till what I'm about to do. And so the people rebel and they elect Jeroboam as their new king, as their leader. And so Jeroboam, that prophecy by the prophet is fulfilled, and he is given 10 tribes to himself. And so Jeroboam, he goes and he builds several different cities. He builds a new capital called Shechem in the north, and it starts with a lot of promise. He is, again, showing that he's an industrious fellow. He's building cities, he builds a new capital, he's getting things going for the nations that he is now responsible for overseeing. And then verse 26 in 1 Kings chapter 12 says, and Jeroboam said in his heart, now the kingdom may return to the house of David. He forgets this prophecy and this word of the Lord that was given to him, because God did not say the kingdom will return to David. He says, I can make you a lineage like I've given David. He didn't say your rule is going to end. He said, look, we can really do this thing here. But Jeroboam, again, he is not at this point even seeking counsel. He says in his heart, the kingdom may return to the house of David. And this basically, people, yes, the nation is divided now into two, but people still have to go and make sacrifices. And so they're still going to have to go down to Judah, to Jerusalem, to make these sacrifices to the Lord, to Yahweh, to God. And so he says to himself, well, if people are making the trek down there, something's going to happen. Their hearts are going to turn back to David, and they're going to go back to him and his lineage and that kingdom. And so what he does is he comes up with a plan. It says, therefore the king asked advice, and he made 2 calves of gold, and he said to the people, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Here are your gods, O Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And he set one up in Bethel, and he puts the other in Dan. So, therefore, the king asked advice. But who did he ask advice? Whose counsel did he seek? Where is he getting this advice from? Hold on a minute, we're going to get there. Let's continue going through the story. It says now, and of course, obviously, you know the 10 commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. You're going to make no images. So, of course, we are not surprised. In verse 30, it says, this thing became a sin, and the people began to worship before the one as far as Dan. Now, Dan was in the very northern part of the kingdom, so people were traveling a long way to make sacrifices to these idols. He made shrines on high places. He made priests from every class of people. He ordained a feast on the 15th day of the 8th month. He's creating holidays. He's offering sacrifices on the altar. He's sacrificing to the calves, these images that he has made. And it's really kind of a reminiscence back to the Exodus whenever they made that calf and worshiped and made sacrifices to that. And so he installs priests and he makes offerings and he's doing all of this stuff. And then it says, so he made offering on the altar, which he made at Bethel on the 15th day of the 8th month, in the month which he had devised in his own heart. So remember when it said he asked advice, he asked counsel, and then it just never says who he asked counsel from. See, before, when Jeroboam asked counsel, it says he asked counsel of the old man, and then he rejected the good advice, the good counsel, and he asked counsel of the young men. Well, now we have King Jeroboam asked advice, but it never says to who. And that's a big thing, because we're given the key to that question. Well, who did he ask advice to? Himself. He asked himself. Jeroboam said in his heart, he asked advice, which he had devised in his own heart. Those are the 3 sections that we looked at. In his heart, he had something determined. He asked advice to himself, and he reasoned it out in his heart. And that's really what we're talking about today. See, Jeroboam is given a great promise by God. Likewise, we are all given promises by God. We are given freedom from our sin. We are given promises about perhaps what we will accomplish or what we are going to do or what he's going to do through our lives. We are given different words from God. And today's devotion kind of ties in with both Pastor's message of beware the enabler and Sister Macy's message of blessings and curses. See, who are we seeking advice from? We have several chapters here. In fact, well, if you really want to be precise, we have many chapters here of these kings making decisions and not taking good counsel. In fact, sometimes not even taking any counsel at all. Their counsel is themselves. And we see throughout the biblical narrative time and again that these decisions don't only impact themselves, but they impact future generations. And sometimes those decisions impact future generations for thousands of years, even sometimes to the present day. We're talking about decisions that were made, thousands of years BC, still affect the world today. See, whenever we are making decisions, whenever we are going to accomplish a godly task, and really any task for that matter, we need to think about what we're thinking about. Am I reasoning within my own heart? Am I seeking my own counsel, or am I seeking godly counsel? See, Jeroboam, for some reason, either ignored or forgot the prophecy that was spoken to him, that God could make him a great lineage, that he had the possibility to rule over the nation if he was obedient if he trusted God, if he listened to his word. And at a moment in time where he was wondering, look, God, I don't understand this plan that's going on, because you've given me the kingdoms, but they're still going to go and offer sacrifices in Jerusalem, in the kingdom of Judah. And we have this problem here. And in that moment, he didn't think about the prophet Ahiah and this prophecy that was spoken over him. He didn't even think about God. He just thought about himself and his self-purpose. And he thought, how can I, as quickly as I can, take control of this situation, take control of this group of people, and reach my own purpose, which is to secure my own lineage. And he completely forgot about the prophecy and what God had promised to do through him. We can't forget that if God set us on a journey, he's going to take care of us. We cannot forget that if God set us on a journey, he is going to give us people to speak into our lives. He's going to have moments where maybe prophecy is spoken over our lives, where we are given direction. If he has set us on a path, he's not going to abandon us on that path, even though things get difficult. And maybe like, Jeroboam, we're at a moment in our life where it's like, well, how is this going to work out, God? What am I supposed to do? Speak to God, get good counsel, get wise counsel, and don't reason it out yourself. You're not going to be able to do it. If you want to do God things, you've got to do it with God. Continue to team up with God. Continue to have a partnership with him. That's what today's devotion is all about. So here, I'm wrapping up. Here it is. Don't forget about God. If he set you on the path, if he said something is going to happen in your life, get godly counsel about it. Speak to God first and foremost about what you should do, and he will lead you in the way that you should go. He will direct your steps. That is a promise that we are given. So look to him. Get good counsel. Get godly counsel. Don't reason within your heart and figure out a way to immediately fix the problem. God has a plan, and has a path. He has a direction for your life. Trust in it and talk to him about it. I hope this made you think. I hope this encourages you today. Take care. God bless.